Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. It feels like Rostermania is getting underway already, despite the fact that Champions is not even over yet. Some big rumours emerging last night as to what especially Sentinels and NRG are doing. Marved and yay, potentially to NRG. Big questions to discuss today. Very much intrigued to your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. But first of all, we've got to discuss the map changes. The new map that's going to be revealed, we think, shortly before the end of the World Championship is apparently going to be called Sunset, or at least that's potentially a name that's going around at the moment as being relevant, and that is because Sunset will come into the map pool, if it's going to be called that, for the start of next season and presumably for the coming act, and Breeze will be returning. So 2 maps in, 2 maps have got to go. Fracture is going to be gone, Pearl is going to be gone. Lots of discussions on this, whether this is good or bad. Many teams, EG, for example, won't be so happy about this. They like Fracture, they like Pearl. Some players, we'll get into the Breeze changes in a second, but some players are very much happy with Pearl being gone, as is Durka. And Fnatic generally will quite like to see this, but no Icebox returning as it stands. Fracture, I think, personally, is a pretty good map. I'm not a big fan of Pearl, genuinely, but yeah, I know some people are. Fracture, I think, is pretty good and plays quite well. There's a lot of variation you can do, but it's going to be gone. They're bringing Breeze back, and these are all the changes to the map. Mid, especially, is changing dramatically, as you guys can see, especially from this shot. The entire right side of mid is no longer accessible. It's getting closed up. This could make it easier for the attackers in parts to take control of this part of the map if they can, you know, exploit this correctly. But there's a lot of big changes here, and I like generally how they're simplifying the map concept to some degree. This is the B site, and this entire passage up to the site here is now getting closed off. It's just one straight wall. You do have these boxes to use to jump over one side or another, and actually the attackers, well, you can look at it from an attacking point of view. Let's say you get in the archway here, you get round to this left-hand side, you will be able to use these boxes to get up on, you know, on here and kind of challenge into the middle part of the map. So there are still some options here to be played around from the attacker's side, but I think in general, it feels like it's going to be slightly more defensive heavy, which I don't think is really a bad thing at all. There are plenty of maps now that are kind of leaning the attacker side, and I think it's not bad to have a map that is more defensive sided, but it does feel like many of the changes are leaning that way on a map that was already pretty good for the defenders, to be fair. But I like generally how they're simplifying some of the concepts here. For example, the hallway is gone. Well, it still exists, but you can't get there anymore unless probably you're Omen. If you're Omen, I reckon you can teleport down here, which would be very interesting for lurk plays. It's probably possible, but yeah, so that at least is what we believe is to be the case, and they closed that up, so you can no longer use that on the attacking side or the defensive side to make plays. Middle has also been simplified again from this angle. You guys can see the doorway here is now no longer at an angle. It's kind of just straight and open here, right, on the newer version on this right-hand side, and then we have massive changes over towards A. So the shop here in the cave, well, the cave is just gone. So they've changed the way you enter here into the shop a little bit. There's now got stairs instead, but this is what it used to look like, and now the cave on the left hand side is completely closed off. It doesn't even, unless you can get through this door, which I don't imagine that you can, there's basically one entrance here now towards the A site, so the cave is just getting blocked off. So very interesting. It does give less options for the attackers again, and the final change is on the A side itself, when they've actually given some stickers here onto, so this is the shrimp and this is the crab, so potentially people will stop calling these what people tend to call these at the moment, but that's maybe an intention there. So still, big changes to Breeze that we've just gone through, and I wonder what the pros will make of this. I think in general I kind of like what they're trying to achieve here, but I don't know if it will work. Now, before we get into roster changes, we've got to discuss Champions quite quickly. Yesterday, as we expected, was relatively straightforward for the teams involved. We had Durka get the 2-0 versus, well, Fnatic, right? And honestly, Durka hasn't done that much so far this tournament, and okay, I think he does need to step it up a little bit against better competition, to be fair, but it didn't really matter here because Alpha went 45 and 19 over 2 maps, and VCT Sports got absolutely bodied 13-5, 13-9. Map 2 was a bit more competitive, and they did take the lead into the half for esports, but it wasn't enough, and Haven and Split both went Fnatic's way. So a solid start for Fnatic to their play through the bracket, and then Edward Gaming, as expected, in region matchup, took down BLG. Impressive performance in BLG to actually get a map here right, and I know there was some talk here about Nobody as a player, because he was making some questionable plays map 2, where BLG ended up winning this one 50 15-13 and a crazy overtime on split. I mean, another split bagger overtime, right? It's not exactly a surprise at this point. Bind was dominant, though, 13-4 on BLG's pick. And then Haven, the overtime game, nobody decided to actually turn up and play this time and took them over the line 13-10. So it was closer than I think many people expected. And congratulations to BLG for making it this far. But Edward Gaming continue on in the tournament, and the results went pretty much as expected. Now, this is where we get into Rostermania, and things are getting really spicy here as to what's happening behind the scenes right now. First of all, Chet, as he says, I wonder what they're doing, Ye and Marved together. And we believe last night that Ye and Marved were teaming up together on NRG, at least in some practice scrims. Now, you can say, oh, these are just pick-up games, they're just having a good time. But look, when the coach is in the lobby, I think it kind of qualifies as more than just a pickup game and a practice thing. There's probably more going on there, especially because many of the North American teams, because EG are the only representative left in that region left in the tournament. And yes, there is still the loud question. Sassy and Pankada still exist. They're still good friends with Aspas, and there might be something in that. But, you know, pretty much most of the players that will be acquirable on the tier 1 level are already out of champions, at least for a lot of these North American teams, and therefore changes can already be made and being considered. Now, Moist Esports Sim as well, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and they've kind of let him explore his options here, so they're looking to potentially make some changes, so that's a pretty big deal, wishing the best for him. But yeah, it's a tricky time right now to be a player in pretty much any esport, but things are happening, because as Guard Valen says, get me to 5 million impressions at our league at all. Zekken says, was great practicing with you today, and Zekken's also coming out with these, which he usually does every year, where he'll just tweet 5 players and just see what happens. He did a few of these last night. I think he did a couple of these last night, to be fair. Zekken, Sassy, Pagana, Nafla, your kid, right? So that's not going to happen. But at some point, Zekken, as he did last year, will probably just leak an entire roster at some point. And we think that teams are getting close to knowing what they're going to do, especially when we see this. So last night, Sentinels were scrimming against Loud. Can you believe it? And I believe Sentinels actually won this scrim set against Loud. Not like it really matters, but it is just one thing. And also we can see Fraud here, I think the coach of Loud. So again, coach in the lobby, take it a bit more serious. We've got Zekken, we've got Pankada, we've got Tens all in this lobby on Sentinels playing up against the Loud guys. So very interesting stuff. And we then get this, which is, I would say, the really interesting piece, which is Ye and Marved and Narrate and Victor all in the same lobby playing against Dapper. So this was noticed last time, and this is a big one, right? Ye and Marved back together again. It seems somewhat inevitable in some way that Marved, having gone to Sentinels and whatever's going on there, would at least consider an option on NRG. NRG finished out the season in an interesting way. Som, as I talked about maybe yesterday or the day before, was arguably over the course of the season one of their best players, if not their best player. But when Marved is an option, and when the team might want to go for that, that's going to make things very interesting. And then you've got Ye Ferraris that should be an upgrade as well. So thanks to our boy James FF here once again on the Scrimbucks VLR page, basically. He puts together what he believes happens. And from his understanding, FNS, so it was Narrate there as well. And I think a 20-year-old player, pretty promising player as well, that was being trialed out on NRG. So they're making lots of changes, it seems. It was not noted where Crashies is, and it was believed that during this situation here, FNS had stepped in and played with Sentinels. So this really does open a kettle of fish. The big rumours of these Scrimbucks here, and we saw some other things going down, but what we believed happened was that FNS was playing with Sentinels instead of Marved, and Marved and Ye, and potentially Narrate as well, were on NRG, which of course would leave NRG with no IGL, but that would be really interesting, would it not, if FNS was to go to Sentinels. So the kind of implication here is that, you know, this kind of a logical explanation, right? So he doesn't know if it happened for sure, but it's kind of like, this is what we believe happened based on the information, that it's possible that FNS had like a bit of a trial with Sentinels yesterday, or maybe he wasn't there at all, and it was just Marved and Ye played together. But we know that Marved and Ye were in the same lobby based on this. So, you know, then you've got to think, well, could Marved do the IGLing for NRG if he goes there? I don't know. But those are the questions that we're currently being questioned with, and it does seem like something is happening right now between Sentinels and NRG, especially when Tens had this to say on stream the other day, which basically says we are going to scrim, and they did, as we saw yesterday, and he almost implies at the end that changes are coming, and changes will come, I'm sure.
We're starting to practice tomorrow. I mean, because I'm gonna say it on stream right now, because there's gonna be Reddit posts or wherever with like scrim bucks or whatever bullshit they call it, where they see us scrimming in the lobby. Practice? Yeah, we're trying to get practice in while we're what's it called? While the champs teams are here, right? Might as well practice while the teams are here and there's better practice than kind of going into an off season and practicing afterwards when you don't really know what's going to happen. Sin roster stays the same, right? I mean, I can't like, I already said this before, but I'm just playing because I couldn't get anybody else. Bracket office? We're doing it in office.
So to even then take this one step further to pretty much show that something's happening, I would say, unless they're all baiting around, but I don't think they fully are, Ye says it all comes around, which kind of implies that, oh, well, you know, after the Optic days when they were teaming with those guys, now they might be running it back again. And obviously this ties in very nicely with this tweet from Chet, where he says, I wonder what they're doing. And, you know, potentially they were in a lobby with Chet last night playing some scrims. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments below. And then we get the other one. So either this is a very orchestrated effort from NRG just to bait around here a little bit, or Som's just baiting us around, or there's something in this, because in the analysis we just saw, Som may, if Marv's coming in, Som may no longer be there, which I'm not sure is fair, because I think Som definitely deserves a spot on NRG, but maybe he was, maybe they said, you know what, we're going to scrim without you tonight, Som, and we're going to see how it goes. So Som doesn't want to say anything, he doesn't want to reveal anything. If I speak, I'm in big trouble, but nonetheless, there could be something serious going on. So very much intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below. Do wonder what's going to happen with TenZ as well. There's been many questions as to whether Sentinels can afford to keep TenZ around going into next season, whether he wants to compete again, given the Kaide situation that hopefully is improving, but as it stands, we don't really have too much of an update on that, I don't believe. So, you know, I don't know exactly what the plan's going to be with TenZ. He may decide to step away a little bit again, as he did in the middle part of this season, but, you know, it also might be possible that Sentinels move on from him anyway, because that was the rumor from a Rod/Breslau a while ago, that 95% sure TenZ won't be there next season on Sentinels because they don't want him, or there's other reasons at play. So yeah, things are going to get crazy. This is only the beginning, and anything we've seen today is far from locked in and guaranteed. Lots of things are still going to change. But just one final thing to close out the video with, this is the current champions bracket. 2 teams eliminated as we saw yesterday for esports and Bilibili Gaming, and now we get the 2 big upper semi-finals, beginning with Loud versus Paper X. We thought it might be Fnatic Paper X. This is going to be a banger. The winner of this will become a tournament favorite, really, unless you still consider Fnatic to be tournament favorites, some losers that they could be, but I'm not so sure that they are. So this is going to be crazy, man. I think I want to take Paper X to win this one, to be fair, but I'm just really not sure. So I'm going to take Paper X to get the job done. Then DRX EG, man, this series could be crazy. This might be the part of the tournament where DRX start to falter a little bit. So I'm taking EG 2-1 and I'm taking Paper X 2-1, but I could very much be wrong on both of these. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.